go ahead and get started, I call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. If we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Roll call.
Vice Chair Gopal.
Here.
Chair Tombe.
Here.
Commissioner Stanek.
Here.
And Commissioner Bigger.
Excellent. Ceremonial matters and presentations. We have a new commissioner joining, two new commissioners joining us. A new and a half commissioner joining us? One new commissioner, a returning commissioner. One returning commissioner and one new commissioner. So if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you.
Did I get this on? Okay. My name is Sashikala Bigor. I try to go by Sashi Bigor, trying to make it easier. But then that confuses people. They make it Sasha or Sushi. What the hell? We try. I'm an engineer by training, and I'm an activist by choice. I've been in Santa Clara Valley for 32 years. I moved into Cupertino 23 years ago for 3 reasons. The schools, of course. But now I've taken full advantage of the schools. My kids are all grown up. And I think we did a great thing moving here, but they always question that, saying we could have been in an easier high school than Monte Vista. I think, challenges builds character, so it's okay for them. The second reason I moved in here was, of course, the safety in the area. Cupertino was a lot safer when I moved in than it is now, but I think it's in the capable hands of the Santa Clara County Sheriff and the Safety Commission, so I'll leave it there. The third reason was I loved the environment around here, the parks and everything. So lo and behold, the activist in me saw this and said, why not try this place? So yeah, I'm hoping that I will be able to help you all in some way. I have a lot of time, so therefore I volunteered for this. I've read the master plan, all 100 pages of it. Thank God that it has a lot of pictures.
Yeah, don't question anything on what is on the 330 page. I cannot answer.
Yeah, and the appendices, so that's good. I was very excited with the vision, which says that we're at 3 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents, and we're going up to 3.7 in the next 20 years. So I hope to be an integral part of making that happen. I was also pleased to see that we're not looking at too much growth. We're expecting the growth to be only about 7.4%. So we will keep the environment as it is. That's lovely to hear. So here I am here to do things for the people, for the residents, whatever they want me to do, however I can help you guys on the commission. That's
Excellent.
what I'm here for.
Thank you so much. Whitney, did you guys have anything? Director, did you have anything to add, or are we good to go?
No, just welcome to the commission. Thanks for helping out. I appreciate
Thank you.
the energy.
And then yes, thank you so much, and we're excited to be working with you. Excellent. So the next item on the agenda is the chair and vice chair selection. Seeing as we are actually down one of our commissioners, if it is palatable to the rest of the commissioners to pull this agenda item and move it to March, I have gotten a request to do so. I will just check in with all of you if that is okay. We don't actually need a formal movement. I just prefer to make chair decisions by group selection.
That's fine.
Okay, excellent. So we're going to go ahead and pull item number 2. Now moving on to the approval of minutes for the special meeting of January 9th, 2020. Looking for a motion to approve.
I move we approve the minutes from the meeting of January.
9th. I second it.
Excellent. And are there any amendments or changes?
Nope.
No.
Excellent. Then we can go ahead and move to a vote. And since there's no button, we can do an oral vote. We'll start on this side.
Aye.
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 Well,
You can abstain.
3-0.
You abstained, you weren't here.
Yeah.
yeah, so I trust you guys.
Thank you.
Excellent. So with that, the motion passes. Since we have some wonderful folks here joining us today, we're going to go ahead and move new business item number 7, the Blackberry Farm Entrance Road and Improvements Feasibility Study in Public Meeting, up above number 4. I don't believe we have any written communications or oral communications that we need to take into consideration. Excellent. Come on up.
So,
Okay, right here.
so Melanie is here. Melanie is the project manager with Public Works Department, and she will be leading this item, the Blackberry Farm Entrance Road Improvement Project. That works.
Okay.
Thank you for the introduction, Randy. Like you mentioned, I'm here to present. Basically, we're having a public meeting next Wednesday from 6:30 to 8, and this is in regards to the Blackberry Farm feasibility study. This study is really to evaluate the entrance into Blackberry Farm and to offer solutions on how to improve the pedestrian and the bicycle access. Right now, the access is really narrow, and the bicyclists and the pedestrians and all the motor vehicles are in conflict with each other, and they could be, it could be a crapshoot, basically trying to figure out how to work your way around each other. This was as part of the bicycle transportation plan, and it leads to several other routes from east to west and from north to south. It leads into the Stevens Creek Trail, and from the east, it starts the Stevens Creek Bike Boulevard. And then it connects also to the McClellan Bikeways to the south and to the Foothill Bike Route to the west. So we really want to work with Underwood and Rosenblum, who is the consultant on this particular project, and they will be offering all the solutions that they can think of to improve this entryway, the entry road into Blackberry Farm. And let's see here. Yes, so essentially, all the commissioners are welcome to attend this meeting. We'll have all the options available for you to view. At this time, we don't have all the presentation material ready, but they'll be ready on that day, and so you're welcome to come. And hopefully you'll be there. Hopefully we'll see the new commissioner there too. And another thing I wanted to mention, that we'll be making the formal presentation to the commission on the March date, and presenting to you all the available options, and also presenting to you the feedback that we got from the public from that meeting. And hopefully it'll be all positive and it'll all be good, and they'll want to make it a project. We'll see. And ultimately from that meeting, we'll try to get from you what your recommended alternative would be during that meeting after we present, and also kind of get a recommendation from you, perhaps funding, put it on the funding for next fiscal year. And then it also will be presented to council, the feasibility study and the report, once it's done, to council on April 7th. And we'll also, we hope to present all the options to council on that date, and get a final alternative from them, and perhaps if they decide to fund it as a project. We'll see. I think that's it.
Excellent.
Any questions?
Thank you so much, Melanie. All
No
right.
problem. Oh.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm good.
Okay. Did we have any clarifying questions? Actually, do we have any blue cards? No, I don't think so. We can just jump into discussion then. Go ahead.
Gopal can go ahead.
Yeah, so the one question is that, when you say the proposal, so we do know how many options are already being presented? I mean,
Yes,
city
we
staff.
do have, I think, 5.
I see.
It might get narrowed down, but we have 5 options at this time. Yeah, so.
okay.
those
And
are-
the question, the question is that, is there any, those materials will be available early, or it will be presented only at the time of a meeting? Just to
We'll-
get familiarized with it, is there anything will be available as a reading material for public, not just for commissioners, but so that we can just go through it and come back with some more
Yes, they will.
well-educated questions can be asked, rather than
Mhm.
just jumping on
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Yes, they'll be available at the time of the meeting. Upon request, we can make it available to the public also. So,
Okay, no, again, I do
Mhm.
not know how detailed this
If it'll be on the website.
options are. but if
I
it's available-
anticipate we can post it on the Blackberry Farm Entrance Road site.
Good,
Or at least links to that.
awesome, thank you.
Yeah. But I want to present, I want to give to the public the opportunity to really look at it. And hopefully we can do that at the meeting.
Yeah,
And there'll be
okay.
enough people.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
I'm delighted to see this come up. When I was working on the access to Blackberry Farm from Scenic, starting probably in 2005, as we looked at the renovations that were going on through the corridor there, we were looking for a safe route to school going through there, and the children are using it. It took us to 2011 to get that implemented, but the exit out to San Fernando has always been a concern, and so I'm delighted that I'm still around to see something coming forward, and I really look forward to what you're going to be presenting. And you know, the city actually went and bought the property, the Seifert property right there. And I know that the neighbors are very interested, and they'd like to see something happen with that property, because they don't like having an empty house sitting in there on the street, and that's always a risk. And I understand that from their perspective. So hopefully we can get this moving forward and make a lot of progress there. I'm very excited about it.
Mhm.
Commissioner?
Can we get a sneak preview of what those 5 are, or do we have to wait till the?
I can see if I can make that happen. Yes. And to follow up with your, with you, Carol, I think when we present to council in April, we hope to get some sort of direction after we've kind of dedicated the right of way for the public, for the improvements, and then also we can work with, and we've been working with planning to figure out what their plans are for the rest of the property also.
Excellent. So I echo a couple of the commissioners' requests to see the proposals in advance. And also if there's a way that we can make that available to the public, even if it isn't necessarily all of the details. I think sometimes having a visual is enough to get people incentivized to come to the event. I'm curious as to what the outreach is going to be for the community members that are there to get them to attend.
So there's been a website that's been set up for them to access it, and it's been linked to basically the meeting notice on the Blackberry Farm entrance site. And I've been working with Brian Babcock to blast that to, all the social media ways of, outreach. And then I've also sent, 2 weeks ago, I sent out flyers, the same flyer, to the residents on Byrne and San Fernando, and then I also did door hangers, I would say I also did door hangers on Wednesday, so.
Excellent.
That was the outreach.
Is there any additional outreach we can do on the other side, actually on the scenic circle side? Or any signage that we could post on this end?
Signage, I'm not really sure. I mean, I could post door hangers on their doors on the other side, correct? On
Yeah.
Scenic Circle. Yeah, I mean, I can post door hangers, and hopefully that will be enough time.
Or even if it's just like something on kind of the gate or the fence right next to it, just like a bigger board that could be laminated so it doesn't get, even just like
Yeah.
the poster
Put the flyer.
itself would be the flyer, just like right on the fence. I don't know if I missed that when I was walking there, but
On the fence of the
The scenic
Blackberry
gate?
Farm?
At the
The
scenic
scenic gate?
the
Okay.
scenic gate, yeah, because a lot of people like use that side, and one of the reasons, like, I mean, I was out of high school by the time it finished, so it wasn't a utility to me, but one of, like, I know that that's a concern also, people setting themselves on that side because they know the other side isn't necessarily the safest way for them to get out to get to school, but I think if we just encourage both sides to show that there is support for when this eventually goes to city council, I think would be great.
Sure, so let me see if I can talk to the ranger. I don't know where it's legal to post exactly, and if we're allowed to post or who I need approval from, but I'll look into it and
Okay,
see
great.
what we can do.
And if for whatever reason you find yourself coming upon some friction, do let us know.
Okay.
Because if we need to, as a Parks and Rec Commission, make a small announcement board that's next to the scenic circle, that is something that we could potentially do.
Right.
So just let us know if there's any friction at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Um,
might also want to consider notifying the Monte Vista PTA or PTSA, I don't know what it is called these days. I mean, you could put it in the student announcements, but I mean, this directly affects Monte Vista High School and Kennedy. Well, Lincoln kids don't come from across there. They're only on the other side. But Kennedy and Monte Vista, certainly you have students coming from across. And they were always very they were the ones who were very supportive of getting the throughway in the first place. And I think they'd be very delighted and supportive and would probably like to know and have a voice on this. So you could.
Yes. So I believe Sherry works right across from me. Sherry works right across from me, Volkoviak. So, I mean, I can certainly reach out to her and she can get in touch with the Monte Vista High School one.
I think that would be great.
Wonderful. Do we need to make any kind of formal support motion here, or is this just for us to understand?
This is just
Okay.
for information.
Great.
This is just for information, and again, the commissioners are all invited to attend. As a Brown Act reminder, please, when you go there, you are participants. You should not be discussing with each other, nor should you be telling the public how you're going to be voting on it, so that we don't have any issues coming up. It will be coming back to you next month, so you can take more formal action and support, and that recommendation would then go to City Council. But at the meeting, there can be a majority of commissioners at the meeting, but just as spectators, and let's not make your opinions heard at that point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Melanie, for your
Okay.
time. And we are very, very, very excited by this project. So
glad.
looking forward to seeing this
Very good.
come out.
Awesome. Well, thank
Wonderful.
you. I just wanted to repeat the meeting time and the location, because it's not at Blackberry Farm. It's at the EEC, just in case. Okay, very good.
Excellent. Thank you so much. February 12th, everybody. All right, next up, we have subject number 4. It's the Satellite Community Garden Update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Recreation Supervisor Jenny Coverman is going to be leading us in this discussion, which we anticipate is going to last for the next few months. And we're going to be asking the commissioners this time to roll up your sleeves and do some work out in the community for us and help us out.
Sure.
Jenny.
Is that on? It is on. I'm very excited about the feasibility study because my office is at Blackberry Farm and I go up and down that driveway several times a day. And I know, Carol, you know what that's like. But tonight, I'm here to talk to you about the satellite community gardens. This is something we are asking for your feedback regarding our proposal and our evaluation process that we've created to identify potential locations of community gardens throughout the city. And we're actually asking for your help as well to identify some of these locations. So to give you a little feedback on the history of how this project came about, back in June of 2019, City Council reinstated funding for the community garden project at McClellan Ranch. The original project had a budget of $1.5 million. When they reinstated it, they allocated $1.2 million for those gardens and asked staff to use that $300,000 to explore opportunities for satellite community gardens in other areas of the city. So that's a bit of a history and where this project came from. So what we did is we surveyed 10 cities around us, and you have this attached, and I apologize. You have several sheets that are all the same, and you really only need the top one, and this is the top one. And essentially, we surveyed these 10 cities around us and asked them how big their garden was, how big the plots were, how many gardens they had in that, how many plots they fit in the garden, and if the beds were raised or in ground. And from that information, we created this quick little reference sheet for us. As you can see, like number 3, Calabasas. It's 1/3 of an acre. The plots are 50 square feet, and they have 33 plots in their garden. So that going forward, we kind of have an idea based on the size we're looking at, how many plots we can fit in a specific area. So using this information, we then created this little handy-dandy evaluation sheet. And the intent of this is for commissioners and staff to use this and this criteria in evaluating the appropriateness for a specific site to be used as a satellite garden. And so we created all the criteria on here based on, water, the size, the location, security, the lighting there, is parking good, what it's going to cost to do that, and various site conditions. And then you can see at the bottom there's a rating system. There's a rating system that we have created. So the process we thought for this would be that, again, we're asking for your help. So we would like the commissioners to, without using the evaluation form, by February 24th, to just identify 2 to 3 locations that you think in the city might be good places for satellite community gardens from other locations. And you would then give those results to staff. And then we would come back to you with the results of that and what sites you recommended, and then give you the evaluation form and ask you to go to those sites that you recommended and use the criteria that we created to really rate them and evaluate them. And then turn those results into us, and then we'll come back to you at a future meeting with those locations identified and see what rose to the top. And hopefully narrow it down to a few locations. And then at that point, we'd like to ask master gardeners to go to those few locations and really confirm that they are conducive to using as community gardens. So that is our project update.
Excellent. We're not going to have any blue cards, so we can go ahead and jump into discussion and questions. You want to start? You started last time.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm wondering how you envision, what you're looking for, and might it be useful for us to get resident feedback where they see opportunities where they would like them, where they're living, and say, I would use one, and I see one right over there. I was just wondering if you'd considered anything like that.
You want to answer that one?
Happy to.
Okay.
Okay. We will be giving the residents an opportunity later on in the process to do it. The first cat we thought can come from the commissioners. Obviously, you can ask friends and neighbors and other people that you know. the locations. These can be in a city park. It can be, it could be on private property, although obviously cost would be one of the key factors. As Jenny said, we have $300,000 for one or two or how many of these we're doing. So purchasing a plot of land is going to be difficult. If there was a school with an agreement, I guess that would be a feasible way to do it. But where do you think it's going to make sense? And if we hear from each of you, if we get 2 or 3 sites, obviously if one of you comes back with some sites, the others haven't had a chance to visit it. So the following month after we've compiled the list, then we would be asking you to go to all of the sites on there and give an evaluation and use the rating sheet. The idea is to take something from subjective to objective. And when we finally do make a recommendation to the city council, all of a sudden we have some rationale as to why this site was chosen over another site. We can say it was because this meant parking was completely off the street and didn't bother the neighbors, or water was already here and we didn't have to run irrigation lines 500 feet or whatever the case may be. So those are the criteria we would be using going forward. If there's other thoughts that come up, other criteria we should be using over the next month or so, please let us know. We can add that to the chart.
Yeah. Great. So for me, like, I don't know how many other gardens, satellite gardens we have today in the city. And so is there a way we can get what's currently available in what location and what are the other things?
So the only community
Zero.
garden that
Except
we
this
have
one. There's the only one.
was the one at McClellan that is currently in construction.
What about
it's
Katsa?
not-
Yeah,
Yes,
I
but
know,
we
it's
have
not
no
yet,
other,
yeah.
that's the only location for a community garden by
So-
the city.
Okay. And you said, Director Randy said the public parks, which is, okay, we should be able to find out, okay, it looks like this is a potential one and we can go and look into it. But you also mentioned the private properties or anything. So can you give a little more lights on it?
I just don't want to limit you, that's all.
I see, okay.
Right now, within the city of Cupertino limits is
Well-
fine. Later on, we can come back and wean, but during the initial brainstorming discussion, I don't want to limit to say it can only be, in a corner of a city park or something like that. If there's some other creative way to do it, fantastic. Let's find out.
Okay. Yeah, that's all fun now. Yeah.
So is that 300,000 or whatever that's put away, is it going to be for one location or for split between them? Is there
It would be
even
split. It's for us to
It's just-
explore the opportunities. So it would really depend on how much. It could be one, depending on what we identify. It could be several, depending on how much it costs.
And do we have any kind of estimates of how much these things would cost? Box, there was an explanation of somewhere that there was 40 of those. Do we have any idea of what it costs?
Yeah. Some of the survey, it had the costs, but some of them were also built back in the 70s or early 80s. So the
okay.
cost is probably not accurate.
We do have a little bit of information. The larger one down at Blackberry Farm, that's being proposed for 98 beds, and it's 1.3 acres or 1.5 acres, something like that. And so Public Works did open up bids for that project recently. Those will be going to the City Council for their February 18th meeting, and we do have some of the cost breakdown of that. A lot of it, though, is going to depend on the site and what's the condition. Is the soil contaminated, or we're going to have to change things around? Is it something that we can just build on top of beds? What kind of fencing are we going to need around that site? So a lot of it's going to be site specific. The cost of the beds, as Jenny showed on the previous slide, some of the sites that other cities are using are only in 1/10 of an acre, and they're fitting 10 beds into them. Obviously, if we found 2 or 3 sites that are 0.1 or 0.2 acres, we might be able to fund all of that within the $300,000. If the site that is preferred is half of an acre, maybe the $300,000 is going to only fix up that one location.
Yes. Yeah, one more question on it. This 300K is allocated for a feasibility study, right? That's right?
No, it's to create the gardens.
To create the garden, 300,000.
Mhm.
And that's with, okay.
There is
The reason I'm a little bit stopped is that, okay, 300,000, if you're going to say, right now it's 1.2 million for the whatever we are working on it in this garden. And then with 300,000, I don't see at this point, and maybe let me make it clear, maybe step back. This 300,000 is going to be used to set up a satellite community garden. And then if I proportionate with 1.2 million what we are spending there right now, we'll look at average, based on the data, I see average, it looks like 100 every one, right? And I'm looking at similar to 1.2 million or maybe beyond, even if you want to go. So looks like we are going into a completely opposite direction of, okay, let's go on a 5 here, 4 here, 10 here kind of. That's going to create, my personal opinion is, it's going to create a lot of work for the staff and maintenance and all of them because you're going into bits and pieces everywhere. Is that the goal the city council wanted us to do that? Or is any response back from the staff, from a park and rec department, saying that, okay, this 300,000 is not going to be fitting, and if we can go and do all the analysis, we can come back with many of the options, but the minimum viable project, right, should have a minimum of maybe 40 or 50. We should have some of those, which will, otherwise, if there's only, I'm going to put 4 or 5 somewhere nearby, then maybe 100 people sitting there and then to get into it. And then we are not going to satisfy any of them. They're going to have a lot of dissatisfaction if you just go to 4 plots and if there are 100 people waiting. So I'm trying to find out what are we trying to achieve in going in it. Because average, it says 100. I just wanted to...
I can answer.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
I believe their intention was that they wanted gardens in other areas of the city, that all our gardens are in one location, but there might be more dense housing in another area of the city that, you know, you're not gonna, maybe you don't have a garden plot because you live on the border of San Jose and Cupertino, and you're in Cupertino, but you're so far away from McClellan that you don't have a garden. So to provide opportunities for people to access a community garden in other areas of the city, I believe that was their goal.
Okay. I would still put a request, Director Andy and you. So average, because the analysis is okay, we all can spend, I'm ready to spend, I'm sure every commissioner will go and get on and just go on to try to find out and try to, which one is, but I think it's, at the end of the day, all this research and stuff is not going to help if you don't have, So my request is that if all this research will end up in vain, in case if we don't have, this is the bare minimum, we need to do it. So if it is at least 25, I'm just coming up based on those reports. If you could able to present that to the council, hey, this is the average, right, from all the cities. 100 seems to be. Some are outliers, 750 and all of them. So let me ignore. I'm not going to be that greedy. But if it is 100 average, then if you could take that 100, if you could find a plot, and even if I take it 50% of it is 50, then it is going to cost this much. And are we ready to? Otherwise, this research will end up in a shelf. And that's the worry I have, it is that it's not about the time we want to spend, but where is it going to yield? And what is that message we are going to communicate? And especially if you go and reach out to the friends and family and public, you are setting an expectation. And I just want to make sure, how are we going to say, oh yeah, we did just collect the data, and then we'll come back after many years. So I feel that, because every time when I do survey or a feedback or ask for it, you are setting an expectation that something will be built, something will be done on it. So, and if you don't, and this 300,000 seems to be so meager on it, that's my worry, concern. I just wanted to make sure that there is a way to present this early enough before we go fully and analyze all of those. I just want to make sure that we need to make council aware, hey, this is the average one, and this is what it is. That's my request. I'm not saying that we will stop. We will still go and do it for the benefit of the community, 100%. But I think 300K, going around all of those, with the data I see it, it's going to be really, we're really going under on it. So I just wanted to share that, my comment on it. That's great.
So I appreciate the comments. I agree that we should not be raising expectations with surveys for no purpose at all, unless we fully commit that this is a project that's going to happen. I truly believe that $300,000 will be enough for at least one extra site, depending on the size that is selected by the commissioners and by the city council ultimately. A lot of these are items, are plots of 10 beds or 20 beds, and the satellite sites should not be as large as the one down by McClellan now. We don't need the 100 here and 100 there and 100 there. The larger ones, the more public one that we're going to be inviting school groups to and gardener displays and things like that. The more satellite ones would be more for the local community in those areas. So I do believe that if it was a 15 bed or a 20 bed or something like that plot area, I think that would be sufficient. Also, there's a little bit extra cost in the McClellan site because of some of the extra work that has to happen that may not have to, some of the infrastructure work that has to happen. So I think that cost is going to be a little bit inflated if you looked at a per plot average. And depending on the sites that are selected, I think our per plot average might actually drop over the McClellan site just because of some of the infrastructure items that are going to happen there. But I appreciate the concerns.
Yeah, thank you. One last question, I'll just leave it for the data. Do we have a data on all these plots from all those? I think this is awesome data. First of all, I really appreciate it. I think we just talked about this 2 months ago, and you were able to collect from so many cities. I thought it was one page, then I said a second, and then there's third, and then fourth. So you collected so much data on it. It's awesome with such a precise information. Maybe it's too much to ask, but is this part of the data where do we have how many people are on the wait list on each site? The city has given any data to you? Because there is an 87 plots or 10 plots, and in Bester, for example, 0.1. And is there a...
We don't have that data, but we
Okay.
could easily get that data from them. We would like to include it in there.
It'll be just good data for us and
Sure.
say how many people are on wait list. So, thank you. That's pretty much.
Actually, piggybacking on that, which was my question, was we have our own wait list for the community gardens. It would be great to know where those residents are, because if we can find an area of residents that are kind of congregated in a specific area, we can just target finding locations around that, and I think that would be particularly
I actually think we have a map of that. I
Oh.
think I
Cool.
have seen a map that has the wait list and where those people live in the community plotted out.
If we
So-
could get a copy of that
Yeah.
for our out and about research as well, that would be very,
Sure,
very
makes
helpful.
sense, yeah.
Can
We-
it
we-
include the gardeners that are currently on the list, not just the wait list people? Because some of those people may want to transfer to something more convenient. I mean, we only had one site before, so.
Maybe.
So that, yeah, so if most of
More
the
and more
ones that are
Alaska's
gardening are in a particular area, that's definitely something we should be looking at.
So we will email you the data that we have on that. But I would also encourage you not to solely go by that. For example, if there was nobody in the northwest corner of the city, well, that was on the wait list or currently gardener, that might be that they didn't because it was too far to travel to the other location, and maybe it would open something up. So it's good data to have, and we would know where people are, and we might be able to focus, but let's not solely go with that information.
Excellent. So the other couple questions I had are, one of my previous concerns with the community garden selection of who gets what garden was based off of access to land to garden. So, for example, my family, we have a very large backyard. We can build our own bed and raise our own vegetables in our own garden versus a condo or a set of more densely populated areas might not have that kind of access. They might not have big enough backyards or a backyard at all. So I'm wondering, is that something that we're considering in the process of selecting these, or is that has that not been included in the selection process?
I don't believe it's specifically included in the selection process, but it's definitely something that you can look at when you obviously know when you look at a site that, oh, it's surrounded by a lot of apartment buildings or condos or whatever versus houses that might have bigger backyards. It's definitely something you could consider.
Okay, and this is my seventh year on the commission. We about 4 years ago, maybe 4.5 years ago, talked about parklets and the parklet program. So the idea, similar to what the incentive is to create satellite community gardens, is to create micro parks across the city so that people on the east side in different neighborhoods can get access to different parts of parks without necessarily having to build one big one, because that's just not feasible in Cupertino. We're not going to be able to create another McClellan unless some, trillionaire comes in and just buys out massive houses, which I highly doubt would ever happen. So Parklets was an attempt to solve that. Could we expand the satellite community garden site to include spaces that could be parklets and community garden spaces, or is this with the intent to only have that?
If you would like to include that in the list, we'd be happy to do it. The purpose of the project now is these, but there's nothing wrong if you've identified other sites that we can't start an extra list in case a parklet concept comes up. Yeah, as long as you're out there looking around, we'd love more information. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other feedback?
Are there any lists of city-owned property that's undeveloped and underutilized?
Not that I'm aware of,
Not that
we've
we're
got
aware of,
where
but
we're using for storage or
not that
some
we're aware
local-
of, but we can check in with other departments and see if they know of certain sites.
That'd be great.
Good question. Thank you.
Excellent. So we do have our list of to-dos. I believe the ask was by February 24th.
Yes, please.
We submit at least 2 locations that would be well-suited for satellite community gardens. There were a couple of challenges brought up by the commission, from financing to understanding the demographics of people who currently use our community gardens, or currently use our community gardens and are on the wait list. So if we can get that information as well as the sites, if available, the sites that the city owns that are underutilized.
Absolutely.
Great.
And you could give your locations to Whitney. Then we'll
Okay.
just all go through Whitney. That'd be great.
Excellent. And just as a reminder to commissioners, make sure that goes directly to Whitney and not to additional commission members. Great. Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it, and we're super excited about
Great. Thank you.
about doing this. So thank
Yeah,
you.
maybe once I would like to learn how quickly you collect the data. This is awesome.
All right. So we are going to go ahead and jump into old business item number 5, which is to review and finalize the commission proposals for the 2020-2021 City Work Program. For just whomever is deciding to watch at home, this is the plan that the city council will be reviewing to incorporate in the master set of agenda items that we'll be working on for the year. But this is supposed to be in line with what the city council has set for us, and we are going to do a quick review. We already did a preliminary okay on the items in our last meeting, and this is to look at the fleshed out version of the document that we had previously created, or almost fleshed out version.
Oh my God, it's wonderful.
Go ahead.
See it? Okay.
This is the list. I'm hoping everybody can
It's out
see it
of
at home. Okay, so I guess this is the draft list that the commissioner came up with at the last meeting or the previous meeting. And the idea is to get a little bit more specific with some of the concepts on here. We need to know more specifics about some of these topics. And I'm going to switch. Actually, I'm going to look over your shoulder. Thanks. So I think we have a good idea of the all-inclusive playground, and that is one that Public Works is currently taking the lead on, along with our staff. We have the dog off-leash area, and that right now is going through its trial period over at Jollyman, and that will be completed in July. Summer events, I would love more clarification from the commission as to what you're looking for in that case. Status of trails, same thing. I'm not sure what the details of that one would be. Historical preservation, I think we have a good concept of what that means at McClellan Ranch. There's a lot of items out there, and to talk about the historical preservation, I think staff gets that. Teen wellness programs, would love to get a little bit more detail if you have specifics on that. Collaboration with other commissions, if there are specific programs that you'd be looking for to work with commissions, we would love to have those ideas, to evaluate those, and to bring those up to the attention of the other commissions, or at least the liaisons of those, as well as senior programs. If there's an area within senior programming, are we talking about more health-related programs, more educational programs, more trips specifically? We know the senior center is a very vibrant place, but if there's an area of programming within the senior center that you think could use a little beefing up, we would love to get that feedback from you. The Park and Rec Master Plan is going to the City Council for approval on the February 18th meeting. So I don't think we need to pursue that one any further. And the strategic plan, actually is one that, well, I might as well bring it up now. I was going to bring it up as, well, I'll bring it up as the next agenda item. You know what, I'll bring it up now, and we'll just make Whitney figure out how to fill all that into the minutes later on. So the strategic plan is kind of a follow-up piece to the master plan. And staff has already had one meeting, Park and Rec staff with the Public Works staff, to start talking about how do we turn the master plan, a large 20, 30-year document, into something more reasonable for the upcoming capital improvement project budgets. And part of it includes maybe not prioritizing necessarily, but identifying certain programs that we can do within the next 1 to 2 years, certain projects that can be done within the next 3 to 5 or 3 to 7 years. What I would be asking for, and we do not have to do it right at this moment, but I would be asking for the chair to identify a commissioner to be able to work offline with staff and come to some committee meetings so that we can work with the Park and Rec and the Public Works staff to make sure that the thoughts of the commission are included as we start to identify those areas for the capital improvement project. And why did that button not go down? And I think that's the entire list.
Yeah, so they had told us that we had a limit of 10 and then had to do 3 top priorities. So
Right.
these were our limit of 10. Awesome. So why don't we go ahead and start from the top to go through to provide more clarity and a little bit more granularity on each of these items. Some of these things I think are, like you said, self-explanatory. Others I want to make sure that we provide additional clarification on. So I just want to go through each of them and make sure that all of the commissioners are clear on what we are expecting or what our goals are for each of them. So all-inclusive playground, we have a significant portion of money for that, but we do need to get additional funding and find partners, et cetera, and then actually jump onto the execution of hopefully building it in the near-term future. So does that sound correct and accurate to the rest of the commission members?
Yeah, the only question is that when you said that, yeah, it states in the detailed one, so we need to do fundraising and we need to start doing it, right? So do we have any specific goal on what the gap and how are we going to do that and when it is going to really materialize? Because since we are going to put it on a 2020 and it's a top one, and if at all, if I have to do only one in the whole year, this is the one. And I would like to know as a commission, what we are going to do and what is the gap and how best I can help or we can help together. So do we have all the details nailed out, the delta, what the goal and when we need to raise and what the ways you're going to fundraise all of them?
So we do not have the details for that at this time. Public Works is taking the lead on the project. They are working to pull together the cost data of it. Part of it will be to do an RFP to different playground vendors, those that specialize in all-inclusive playgrounds. Yeah. We know the size limitations of the space, so what kind of equipment needs to fit in there. And then vendors will come in and present, and along with their concepts would be a budget number. I have not worked closely enough with Public Works Department to see what the budget is at this point.
So what is the timeline we are looking at for all this process to complete to get some data, like 3 months, 6 months, or how long?
For the data?
Yeah, no, for the RFPs, and then you get it, and then finally you finalize it and say, okay, average, this is what the cost it is, and how long it'll take typically? the
So,
bidding process, all of them? Was 3
I
to 6 months?
apologize, I do not know that information
Okay.
because
Roughly, maybe I expect like 3 to 6 months. In that
typically,
range.
yes, it can be 3 to 6 months.
months, okay.
For this item,
Okay.
I know that the Public Works Department is going to be bringing this to the City Council as part of the capital improvement project within the budget. And depending on if the council pushes it forward, they would be able to start that process. And yes, 3 to 6 months would be a very reasonable time frame to do it there.
Okay.
But we'll find out more with the budget hearings that the City Council raises in the spring.
Okay, I just have only one more question, then I think I'll let the other
Go for it.
commissioners. So I'm trying to see whether the city is looking at, like, for example, I'm going to bring up this library program room is one of those projects. As I'm part of the library foundation and others, I know that they had two options. One is, okay, we have the we have that money, and if we have to build what we wanted it, the money is not going to be sufficient, so we have to go for fundraising. That's one option. The other one is that, okay, that's all the money we have, and we need to build it. The community needs it right now, immediately. We don't have time to go into all of them, and we do not know when the date will be. So how quickly we can build with that constraint. So I think if I understand the RFP process or any other process is going to limit saying that, okay, this is the budget. This is what we needed, right? So are we approaching this also in a constraint base where that this is the budget we have, but this is the space. It could be a little bit less, but we want to go and achieve it. But I'm trying to see how quickly we can achieve and give this benefit to the community. And rather than dragging along this one, is the city is looking at any of those options or going with, let's go and find out it is going to cost $2 million and we have only $1 million. I'm just giving a number roughly. It's not that, but then we are going to go into fundraising, and then if the fundraising starts, another it takes 6 months, 1 year, we do not know. This won't be in FY 2020, and it being a number one. So that my only concern is, yes, we wanted all of this to happen, but looks like it may not materialize if this process just kickstarting and all of them. So what alternate approaches we have so that we have something happening on this one in this year?
So the Public Works Department is looking at fundraising options. I do not know the dollar level, though, that they would be looking for. But they would be looking at fundraising options, and all-inclusive playground is not one that you want to take the small version of. You need to be really all-inclusive. It takes a lot of equipment and a lot of different types of equipment. Not just for children in wheelchairs, but also those that need more quiet spaces and other disabilities. So they are looking at a robust program. There are also different types of vendors for this. Some that are a little bit more Cadillac than others. And so they can look at different scales within, but they still want to have a wide variety of equipment that's there. So I know they are looking for fundraising opportunities, and that's something that they'll be talking to the City Council about during the budget hearings.
Okay, yeah, I think, Chair, the only thing from my perspective is that having a number one and we will not be able to do anything for that long is kind of putting us in, for me as an individual sitting there and say, okay, what is it we have to do? It says number one, but it looks like we don't have much influence, we don't have much way to accelerate or expedite it. So that's the only concern, being the number one. So
My suggestion on that item would be for the commission, if you felt that this was one of the highest priorities as a commission that you want to work on the next year, it might be to help with some of the fundraising efforts. It's going forward with staff, so you're not going to have to push the project through, et cetera, et cetera. Staff knows it's important, the council knows it's important. If it's a fundraising piece and you can do outreach to community members or to community groups, that would, I think, be the biggest asset for the commission.
okay, thank you.
It would be, I think, something our commission would be interested in, because that's been a pretty significant project that we've been excited about for quite a while now. All right, so going ahead and going into the dog off-leash, the dog off-leash areas. So I do believe that when, and correct me if I'm wrong, commissioners, when we had originally brought this up as creating it in our top 3, it wasn't simply the analysis and completion of the existing program. It was the analysis, completion of the existing program, as well as using this to create a scaffold and see if this is possible in other areas, how we can replicate this,
Yeah.
should it be a success at the end of the trip, at the end
Pilot.
of the pilot. It's
You-
like
you-
pilot
you-
trip, there we go.
Yeah, you're going on 2-minute trips, yeah.
It wasn't just the program, it was identifying potential other sites in our other parks as well. So
Yeah,
that's all part of that.
That's my understanding as well. I think the pilot and successful and implement it, and then we are going to take it as a kind of a cookie cutter or a sample, and that's we are going to try to roll it out. And I think the good news is that I think, Carol, I think you attended the other San Jose or other Park and Rec meetings. Looks like they were also interested. They're trying to do so. We might be a role model and say, okay, look at Cupertino, and that's how they did it, and they may start looking at you. So.
We're absolutely a role model. I've attended some Los Altos Parks and Rec meetings and some Sunnyvale Parks and Rec meetings. It's right now at the Sunnyvale Council for priority setting for a study issue for them next year. And in Los Altos, since you brought it up, I could talk about it in my reports, but I can talk about it right now. They are going to have 2 workshops actually in February. One is February 12th. Same evening as our Blackberry Farm Access, so I may have to split my time there. And the other is February 29th, and they're getting public input on proposals for both off-leash areas and fenced-in dog parks.
Awesome.
And they have asked for our experience, and
Yeah, I think this
to
one,
know,
compared to
and-
the previous one where I rambled a lot on the first one, this one is so confident because it's going beautifully and very good support. People love it and stuff. So I see that this one is, yes, going good on FY20. I have so much confidence that we will achieve and we will put a stamp on it saying that it's done, kind of. So that's what I feel it. Yeah, sure. I agree with what the
Yeah.
chair said.
I want to just make sure that that is included, the language to create, to identify additional locations should the trial be successful, and also to make sure that we're using this as the model
Yeah.
to use in other parks.
Yeah.
Because that was the intent, as far as I could recall, for this
Yeah.
particular.
Well, and even to go a little bit further, I thought that we were going to be identifying potential sites while the pilot was going on with the assumption that it was going to be successful. I mean, given
Yeah.
our experience of the way it's going, I don't think that would be a wasted effort. So we don't want to have a big gap at the end of the pilot and go, okay, now we're at square one, what do we do next? So we definitely want to keep that momentum and be ready to go at the end of it.
Maybe we will do like a side one, like when we go and look for the community garden space, and I'm also going to one eye look into it. I'm going to go with my doggy, and I'm going to say that which one you like it, and this is the area kind of I'm going to look at those space too. This is awesome.
Hey, like I said, our community gardens can be multi-purpose. Excellent. So, going into any questions?
No.
No, we're good. Okay. Summer events program. My hope was to maintain and enhance, and expand the summer events program. So not only by the kinds of programs that we offer. I remember we were talking about other programming things that were happening with the teen center and with the teen organization, and making sure that was actually incorporated in our summer events program, and not just an independent thing that they had to advertise for. But also, like, senior programs can be more specifically included and make this kind of a central set of months for Cupertino, where all the programs are kind of embedded and enmeshed within it, and then also making sure that we continue to have a diverse set of programs represented. I think having such multicultural and multi-hobbied, that's not a word.
Is that a word?
Diverse
Okay.
sets of hobbies also represented within the summer events program has been really great. Everything from chess to yoga to dance parties to, bands coming in, making sure that we're continuing and keeping and enhancing on that is really important. And then I know that we're going to talk a bit later about at a future meeting about our marketing plan, which is still in this list, but making sure that we have more people attending the event. So, like, unique visitors, not just like the same set of 5,000 people who've kind of gotten a touch point to it coming to all of the events, but actually making sure that we're reaching a broader swath of people that haven't necessarily come to our events before, and making sure that we're touching those people.
I actually thought it was a little broader than
Oh,
that
go for
even.
it.
Well, much
And
broader
that-
than this.
Go
And
for
that
it.
was
Love it.
the concept of the summer events was to push our activities into the community more so that they weren't all congregated at Memorial Park and so that the residents all over the city feel included. And so I thought one of the things we could look at is what kind of events can we do, not just during the summer, but during the entire year that might be at satellite parks, at parks in other parts of the city, and make that a focus for us as well. So it's summer event-like,
I see.
because we're pushing that out, and
It's
and I think we
all-year
got
event.
such
I like your
great-
version better.
That's what I was thinking,
I love
to
it.
the extent we can do that. I mean, certainly with the summer events, keep that going, expand, enhance, maintain, all of those things, but actually extend it out through the whole year, because our residents are loving it. And it's one of the criteria and places that we fall down on and we get knocked on is getting events and supporting our residents throughout the city.
Agree.
Throughout the year, yeah.
And one part I just would like to know is that on these events, is there anything is at risk of? I know we talked about expanding and further, and I would love to have year-long, right? Remove the summer from year and say year-long events, so I would love to have it. But is there anything, either based on the expense or based on the budget, or anything is at risk? I would love to know, because of the existing events, right? We are talking about expanding, but at the same time, if some events are going to be at risk or for whatever budgetary reason, from the council allocation or whatever, it'll be good to learn about too. I just wanted to we should be aware of that. So.
Good, thank you.
Well, one of the questions that I got during my interview, in fact, for the commission was, how do you broaden the, how do you support our staff in ways that we could give them more help from the community? And so doing more partnerships, having more volunteers, and so looking at that, and so I know cost was another factor. So we don't want to just keep, putting more and more onto the staff. I see Kristine shaking her head back there.
Staff appreciates that.
And so how can we lighten the load and still do more with less?
Good.
Excellent.
So for now, we don't have to answer those questions.
No.
All we have to do is do the priorities, and we're doing good, so keep
Yeah.
going. Thank you.
Yeah,
So-
and just in general, one idea is, in terms of, the top, we know that the top three they're in bold there. I think that's why they're in bold. But I think we should note that the ones on the bottom, these are not in some priority list.
Yeah.
And the question is, do we want to put them in some priority list, 3 through 10, or not, or just say, these are all on our list, but to make note that whatever comes first is not necessarily the next thing on our list.
I would honestly hesitate to order them, only because
You can.
I don't want somebody to say, okay, well, we got to your first four. And not to
Yeah,
your
no, I
rest of your
agree,
time.
and that's why I just wanted to make sure it was clear that these are not top to bottom
As long as
priority.
that
So
is
I would say,
made.
maybe, make sure that those top three are a top three, and here's all the others, so that it's not perceived as a priority listing.
So may I propose that, I think I would like still, as Commissioner Carroll said, so summer events, if we make it as a year-long event, just a topic, seriously.
Oh,
The
changing
subject
the
line,
name.
changing the name. Let's
Okay.
not do summer events, it's year-long events. So thereby, for example, senior programs, as Chair earlier said, teen wellness programs, working with the commissions. A lot of these things we can achieve it to get the third one, year-long events. We can collaborate with them, and we can provide all these offered anyway inside. So it's also kind of an intrinsic motivation for us to call that way, so that we know that we'll find an excuse to go and do that. So that's my proposal.
I'm actually
Commissioner.
very open to changing the name of summer events to, we can say annual events program.
Annual events, yeah. And I also agree that I think we don't want to prioritize, then it'll come back and somebody will say, oh, that means I'm the least priority, kind of, even the public knows that, they will
Right.
feel that why. It's
Right. No, I
if you
agree.
go in this sort of I love to have more senior programs included in the annual events too, so I like to see it, so I agree with it.
The only request I'd make is that for the latter set of 7, that we make it alphabetical order. So that way it's pretty clear that it's just in alphabetical order instead of
Yeah, any random
a
order.
hypothetical or what could be perceived as another order. So why don't we go ahead and continue to status of the trails. So one of the key things that the commission's been interested in is making sure that we have connectivity throughout the city. And part of that is, while there is the Bike Ped Commission that does significant amount of work on the trails, there is a pretty deep relationship between Parks Recreation Service, I guess technically not community services anymore, but and the way that our trail system is set up, because we also have the ability to recommend specific land purchases to the city council. We want to make sure that as we're looking at things throughout the city in terms of park acquisition, we're also combining that with a pretty solid understanding of what and where the trails are in our community and where we're also lacking in the community. So when we're looking at identifying specific areas, then we're also doing so with a good understanding of what we have and what we don't have. Ideally, would love to see all of our community programs connected beyond just the roads that we have. That would be so amazing if everybody could get to a Parks and Rec activity or, service, just from biking or walking. But we have no way of knowing what the current trail situation is. And so it would be great to get an update on what is the current status of trails, what are potentials that we are looking at, how can we as a commission help support the work that is being done around trail growth, and then also, are there specific decisions or actions that we can take that can expand access throughout the city so that more of our residents can get connected. That was my initial intent in recommending status of the trails. Is there other?
Yeah, the only question is that I like definitely to see that it's a connected one. But is there any action coming into commission? I wanted to see that, I know the status update, I think, as the staff will provide, but is there any specific action is expected from commission, which we can go on to drive, right? Which we can go and drive with the council or whatever it is. I would like to see that listed out so that we know that this year we can go on to follow up. Yeah, so we want action items. Let's put it that way.
Well, we also need to create them, right?
Yeah, we will create, but I think the staff can come back and say, this is what it is, so we need your help. For example, you're given already an action item for us to get on the weekend, go and search the city, right, for the community garden and others. Similarly, we would like to see what on the trails we need to. So that'll be.
It would actually be great to actually have this before we do the community garden
So that we can go
satellite, so we
through
can
it.
see if there's existing trails where people are using frequently. Then we could maybe put a community garden in an area that people already frequent. But that's an aside. In terms of action item, I actually think for us to then figure out how we can help build on the trail system, because we do have a bit of a unique position in terms of how we support the city council, which is different from many other commissions. So we're not just giving them plans, we actually do have financial impact, both inbound and outbound, and recommendations for land use.
Okay.
Any other feedback?
No.
Clarification questions? Cool. Historical preservation. I believe that was Helene's.
But I know that, she's looking at, especially as you were saying, McClellan Park, there's the barn opportunity, and there's some other things there. There's, and just other identified sites around the city, and what are we doing to preserve those from a historical perspective?
I think that one is pretty self-explanatory.
Excellent. So then we have the teen wellness programs. I think we wanted to make sure that this was added to our list, so it is a supportive flag for all the work that the Teen Commission and staff are doing for the teens in the community, both with existing programs and growing it. We wanted to make sure it was on our list as an important top 10. I don't personally know if we had additional things to add to that.
There's one, I think
but-
one or two we discussed last meeting
Yeah.
is about collaborating with the Fremont Union School District and the other school district on the wellness side. I think some program we called out for stress or a lot of those things, and say how best we can collaborate with those school district to help teens. That's another one thing we talked about
Yeah,
it.
this
So
is
that's
correct.
really externally working with those school district. We want to see how best we can help on those wellness. It's mainly, I think, mental wellness
Mhm.
area. So.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that that's a sign to city council saying that this is on our radar, this is important, whatever support. Also, it's, we want to collaborate, but also, the teens do tell us, and Danny does tell us when there is something important that we should be working on. So it doesn't necessarily need to come from us to them, but if something comes from them to us, we will be championing that.
Supporting that.
We will be supporting what they're bringing to us. People generally know what they need the most, and so that applies to teens as well. Cool. Awesome. Collaboration with other commissions.
I think we got a couple of them, and I think one is with the bike and ped and arts.
The art.
Arts. And then also I had one with the Technology Commission and Library Commission for the digital gateway kind of. So we do have a lot of line items specifically called that what we wanted to do. And these are the things I assume this is also priority in other commissions, because I don't know what other commissions are putting this as a top 10 in case if everybody asked you. And I wish, because this is one of the things in the city work plan, the top is collaborating it, and especially with the commissions. So
Are there specific projects that you're looking at to collaborate with specific other commissions? That's what we'd be looking for.
Okay, so I think what might be actually helpful is creating a strategy with our commission on engaging with these other commissions, because this has actually been something that was previously on our work plan, and we just weren't really able to execute because we didn't know how to engage outside of getting a report here and then giving a report and getting a report, or having like one-off, interactions with people. So I think what would be great is to, one, establish just like a working strategy, like a work relationship strategy between commissions, so that we can actually accomplish things. And then the second is working with each partner commission, to identify what those projects are. So for example, the Art Commission has Art in Unexpected Places. We're going to be doing a lot of development of parks and other facilities across the city. I see no reason why we should have a blank gray wall in our city anymore. We have tremendous talent in the city that we can showcase, but we need to work with that commission to do so. So that's one of them. I know Bike Ped it's trails, making sure that we're creating, even they might have a request from us to make sure that there are enough bike parking. How do you say that?
bike and ped.
Bike lock areas. But we don't really know that unless we actually engage with them directly. Those are some of the ones I can think of off the top of my head. I know the Tech Commission, the TIC Commission,
TIC Commission, TIC Library, and others. We had a plan. We have a specific project. It was presented to council when I was in the Library Commission. Specific project with all details. I can share with you. So
related to the Park and Rec Commission?
No, this is related to providing all the citizens information about all the commission, how they can volunteer. It's a kind of a gateway, digital gateway. It was called.
Okay.
And it was a combination of everyone, because Park and Rec provides all those avenues, but many people have no clue on unless otherwise they know that. So we created calling a digital gateway, which will be placed in the library,
right,
which will outline all commissions, what's happening, what it is, how they can volunteer. That was presented to council last year. I did that personally too.
And I understand that. I guess my question is are you suggesting that the Park and Rec Commission help with that project?
Yeah, no, that's what we propose. So that's an opportunity. How do we collaborate? What avenues we can collaborate? This is one of those projects. We thought it is an opportunity to collaborate with all commissions. But we haven't taken any list and say, okay, this is what we are going to focus. I don't think that we have done it.
Yeah, I think we do actually just need to meet with each
Meet
of
with
these
the commission,
commissions, and it might be beneficial for us to also, do a light assignment of commissioners to
each
other
one.
commissions, and then have us all go to each of those commission meetings and work with the commissions, and then come back and actually, maybe that is what we do with collaboration with other commissions is assign commissioners to each commission, create a plan of items to collaborate on per commission, and incorporate those across the board within various commission activities throughout the year.
Yeah, I agree. Each one should pick one at least on them.
Does that sound good? Comprehensive enough?
Absolutely.
Solid. Okay, great. Senior programs. I think this was similar to the teen wellness program where we wanted to make sure that we were supporting whatever it was that they needed. We do have the senior advisory council, so making sure that we get, I would prefer like once a quarter reports and updates on what's happening with the senior center, especially given the fact that our population is all trending, I think now. When is it going to be majority?
Yeah.
It's
When
not
is it
majority
going-
now, right? Over 50?
I have the report. I can send that to you.
Yeah,
I just got
I
that.
forget. I remember looking at it. It's like going to be the next like 10 years or something. But making sure that we're supporting them in whatever ways they need. And as we start to do the strategic planning, making sure that they're incorporated into that as well, because we're going to need some serious input from the seniors in the community.
That may be
Yes.
another one where we may want to assign someone to go to their meetings and
Yeah.
report back in between, not just to have a quarterly update, so that we're continuously updated.
Correct. I just want to add one point on it, one of the specifics on the senior program. So currently, the Cupertino Library Foundation and the library is, I don't know whether library is part of it. They do a film series at the senior center, but that's being kind of funded by the foundation, library foundation. But there is a lot of interest in it, like at least around 70 seniors attend every time. I've been there, like many of the films, and sitting there. So those are the things we wanted to transfer. The way in which the foundation does is we incubate those programs and see the attention, and then they wanted to. Because at any point of time, if the library foundation stops funding on it, that's going to stop. But these are the things where we can take it, and these are specific programs where seniors are so interested. We wanted to make sure it is part of the city because they love it. Somebody initiated it, any other third party, I'm just using that library foundation as a third party, that brings 70 people every time to come and watch the movie and do it. But right now, if the funding dries up, that program will stop. But those are the things I wanted city to pick up so that they can run it.
Excellent. Going ahead into the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, we have so many amazing. Oh, marketing. Oh my God. I did the same thing. I know, I love the master plan. It's all I do with my life. So the Parks and Recreation Marketing Plan. So we had 2 years ago, we had the goal that we would be able to reach majority of our citizens. It wasn't formalized anywhere, but we had talked about it where we wanted to be able to reach majority of our citizens for the various programs, activities, and services that we offer. There's a lot of people who, didn't even know that we provide, there's like case management and what that does. People didn't even know that that was a thing. And so making sure that we can establish good ways of communicating everything that our staff and our city have put together for our residents, and communicating that in a really effective way, and making sure in media we refer to it as UVs, unique visitors on a site, but similar to our programs, we want to make sure that we not only up the number of recurring people who come to our programs and our various activities and approach our services, but also making sure that we're increasing that UV count, so we're reaching more residents across the board, regardless of whether or not they've actually been to an event before. And I think having a formalized marketing plan to diversify, because candidly, like, I read a lot of stuff because I'm a commissioner. I can't say that was necessarily true until I joined the commission and learned that these are the places that I can go to get this information. And so if you're not looking, it's not necessarily something that's easily digestible. But I do think that there's a huge chunk of the population that would be very excited at some of the opportunities that we have. And, just a small snippet of my mom's a teacher, so she can, tell her students about unique things. She told them about the chess event that was happening, because she, does some tutoring with kids over the summer, and that people got excited about that. They were like, this is really great. We had no idea. And I'm like, you live here, you go to school here, you're a part of a bunch of our, how do you not know this? And so hopefully by getting a really formalized marketing plan that's kind of a third-party perspective into what we're doing will help us kind of reach that broader swath of people.
But it sounds like the marketing plan's being presented February 18th. We had a
No, I'm
special
sorry, no,
The
meeting.
master plan.
Master plan.
Oh, that was the master plan.
And that's completely my fault because I did just as the chairperson did.
Oh, okay.
I looked down fast. I
Okay,
thought it
was
said
very
master plan, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
But the marketing plan will be coming back to you at next month's meeting.
Okay.
So we
great,
have received it.
Because we had
We
a
will
meeting
give
that
it-
was canceled and,
Right.
okay,
We
okay, that makes a whole lot more sense.
And I agree with the chairperson. We've always looked at both the duplicated count and the unduplicated count of people that register for programs. And we also recognize that a large number of people that attend our events, we never know who they are, and we don't because there's no registration for some of the concert series or movies or a lot of the drop-in things that we do. So we don't have sheer numbers on if those are there or not. But through the registered activities, looking at the unduplicated number is very important to us as well. But at next month's commission meeting, the marketing plan will be here. The master plan will be February 18th before City Council.
Go ahead.
Okay, glad we got that cleared up.
Whoops.
Awesome. So the final one is the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan. So that is a doozy of a item. Again, we know we had spoken about this at the meeting that it's going to happen. So it is a priority for us, yes, but it is also just going to happen. We just wanted to make sure that we flagged a couple of the key things that we were looking at, which is Rancho Rinconada, Lawrence Mini Park, Memorial Park, Stevens Creek Corridor, making sure we have park equity, Blackberry Farm, and the Blackberry Farm, the Farm Golf Course, excuse me. So that's why we also are saying that this is not in order of importance, because that is definitely not the last of importance on this list of things that we're doing. Did you need specifics on that, or was that pretty clear?
I understand that very
Okay,
well.
cool.
But there's also, I think the technical number is 1.5 zillion other items that are on there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 1.4 zillion or something like that. We would really appreciate, though, if you would like to appoint one of the commissioners to meet with staff and help us go over all these items. And again, we would be prioritizing these in terms of immediate needs, 1 to 2 years, short term, 3 to 5 or 3 to 7 years, and then the longer term item. We recognize that some of these may never happen, not necessarily the ones you have listed here, but some of the ones in the master plan may not occur for 20 years or 30 years. But a lot of them are things that we can do immediately, and we'd like to tackle those. And others we're going to need to plan for or budget for a little bit longer. And so we'd love to have your input on that. So if we can get one commissioner to work with us, and then they would be able to report back each month for the next several months as we move through the process.
So would there be, how many meetings a month? What
What's
kind
the
of
time
commitment
frame?
is this?
We don't have a set yet. I'm assuming it would be less than 2 meetings or 2 or less meetings per month. Probably more morning meetings. Definitely no evening meetings because it's just staff and we're not going to ask them to stay late. But it would be meeting with probably 2 or 3 people from Parks and Recreation and 2 or 3 or 4 people from Public Works.
I would actually like some time to think about that and talk individually with commissioners to gauge their interest, if possible.
Is that something we can do with the Brown Act? I don't.
Yeah, as long as I don't tell everybody else what you guys are
No,
doing.
but if you're talking to all of us
But I'm,
about it, that's,
Same
what's
topic.
that's
does
a
it-
problem.
You're only asking who's interested in it.
yeah,
It would not be a decision before you're not going to be taking a vote on things like
Yeah,
that. It's the
there's
chair
no-
that gets to make the appointment for commissions. There's very few powers of being the chair. One is you get to set the agenda. One is you get to set committees. And one is you get to say adjourned. And that's it.
Thank you.
Otherwise, you're one of 5.
Yeah.
So the fact that you get to appoint somebody to a committee, you can talk to people offline on that.
great.
You're just not going to get into details about how does somebody vote on an item, et cetera, but
Okay.
Yep.
So,
We might want to also consider at least having, one person and a backup, or
Yep.
even 2 people doing it.
yeah, the committee can be 2, right, without violating the
yeah,
Brown
right.
Act. So
You could.
Is there a particular reason staff has requested 1 and not 2?
if you wish to have 2, that's perfectly fine with us. Again, just weekday mornings is probably when they're going to be, and I'm assuming 1 or 2, the maximum would be a month.
I have one question on this. This is again connection with the master plan and the strategic plan, not the marketing plan.
Right.
I just want to make because I was when you were doing it, Director Randy, I was just practicing that. Yeah, I should do that. Okay. When February 18th, when we present the master plan, and if some of the priorities are set and it's approved, how that will impact the list of items in the strategic plan? Because it's, as you said, ignoring even the master plan, just within the strategic plan, we have a lot of items, right? And then it will have staff timing, whatnot, and we are going to prioritize it. But my question is, maybe it may not, but I'd like to know how that master plan will override any of these things.
The strategic plan is a subset of the master plan.
Yeah. So
Now that you have now that you have the master plan with dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of items, how do we move forward to do some of those things within the next couple of years?
So these
So
are the
my-
ones. Yeah. Sorry, please.
So my best analogy is think of the master plan like an armory,
Yeah.
and the strategic plan is now us picking which of the weapons in the armory we're using to go to battle.
I don't want to go to battle. Please. Thank you. That
Fine,
analogy
it's
is
a
nice.
it's a farm tool shed, and we are picking farm tools to go build
Yeah,
a
maybe
farm.
farm tools. That's
Yeah.
a good one.
But
I'm
that's-
scared of
that's
the
my,
tools. Okay,
that's my-
thank you.
Since we just finished the Super Bowl, let's just say that there was a whole bunch of guys on the 49ers on the sideline, and the coach had to figure out which ones to put into the game.
Please, I think you brought the other one, which
We'll go-
makes me to feel sad,
We'll go,
but it's okay.
We'll go sports on you.
Sports is always safe.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's the reason I ask is sometime if there are priorities comes within that, I just want to make sure that this doesn't get, because these are all well thought through. A lot of things are in progress. Every time I bring it up personally, that a lot of things are in progress, and I want to see how do it get complete rather than getting stalled in the middle or somewhere because something comes and overrides it.
That's
the only worry.
exactly what the specific plan is going to be.
Awesome.
The master plans very often are created by agencies and they sit on the shelf. This is what's putting it into life.
Awesome.
And
Thank
if you
you.
ask me this question next month, I'm going to go to a baseball analogy because spring training would have started by then. So we'll switch
I have
gears.
whatever you say, I'll smile and say yes because I have no clue about that. Thank you.
So one of the things I wanted to add to the Parks and Recreation strategic plan is that we have at least at least one joint meeting with the commission and the city council on the development of the strategic plan whenever that comes to fruition. The reason being, there is oftentimes additional background and context that city council likes to get when presented with stuff, and it is a lot easier if we're all in a room together talking about it rather than them getting a document that may or may not have been completely viewed and then making decisions based off of thoughts rather than research. So I just want to make sure that as that's coming together, we have opportunities to directly talk to city council so that they feel like they are involved in the strategic planning process and not getting a final end result. I found that is often very helpful in making sure they like what we give them.
When it is the appropriate time, we will request a meeting.
Great, thanks. I just want to make sure that's included in our little document. I also wanted to make sure that if you felt, you're new to the commission, but if you had things that you spoke about in your interview or things that you're particularly passionate about, that this is not set in, it's not set in stone. I know we went through and talked about it, but if there were key things that you felt like you really wanted to make sure should be priorities next year, or at least, have an opportunity to talk about those, I'd love some perspective from you.
Okay, first I've got to figure out how to make this thing work. But that aside, at this point, these are reasonable priorities. Any area or any city would like to work on these. I would not go out and say that I have some beautiful, wonderful ideas that I've come up on my own. Having said that, though, a couple of things, obviously, which I had thought of, and it seems like it's already in works, is getting this teen commission and getting the senior center and things like that already tied in. When I look at the priorities of these things, when you look at the summer events or specifically whatever the events for the year, they should be like a subset of these rather than their own, just their own priorities, just because there's always going to be interaction on any of these things with all of these commissions. So do we get something else as a priority, or is it, it wasn't clear to me whether, putting teen wellness programs is definitely a priority, but is there something that says, or does that come under the collaboration with other commissions? So is it a specific thing, or is it something that comes under, when you say I'm working with the teen commission, doesn't that become an event under it?
I think what Commissioner Gopal had said about specifically for the wellness program was partnering with FUHSD, right? That was the very specific action item that we wanted to make sure was pulled through, because I know that they're doing a whole series of programs around the issue as well. So that's specifically for the teen wellness program. But did you have, if this were to be merged, hypothetically, similar to how we did the strategic plan, because we did that last time as well. We saw, we had each of these as individual line items and then merged them for that very reason. Is there something else that you would think we could add as a priority?
At this point, I can't think of
Okay.
it, but I will keep that in mind
Okay.
and bring it up the next time, or whenever it comes to mind.
Awesome. Go ahead,
Well,
did you have any feedback?
Just so you know, this is going into staff, and then they're going to be filling out some of the requirements here, and then it's going to council. So I don't know that we're going to see this again. Just to set your expectations.
We won't necessarily be able to directly do this. However, that doesn't preclude us from working on other projects as they emerge, correct?
You can request from council to work on the other projects, but you work on projects that council directs you to work on.
Yeah.
So you can make a request.
Yeah, so just like the
Well,
dog.
and it sounded like with the new rules, there was some flexibility there. If we weren't asking for more than 2 hours of staff time and things like that. So I think we should look at those commission rules and definitely identify what kind of flexibility we have for some small things, because they go through a lot of work
Yeah.
to get all this. And we want to make sure that we're doing these things, but if some little thing comes up, that we're not precluded from.
No, I
Yeah,
think
and we also did make this under the impression that other existing programs would continue, like the community gardens program. Like that will still continue even though it's not on this priority sheet per se, because the
Wait.
council has agreed to that
Right.
already.
Right. That,
Yeah, I think, so one quick, just to add on to Commissioner Carroll's one is, how, after the council approves that this is the first to three, whatever, and then the staff will go back and say this many hours are going to be spent on these top three, and then that's all the remaining hours typically we have. Is there a way we get to know? Because as you said, Commissioner, 2 hours, if it is available, we can just go and try to do some additional. But how do we know that staff capacity? Assuming that this is what the theoretical, they say, okay, first three approved, council says, go ahead and execute it, right? So that's, we know that. Then staff goes and executes. Each one is maybe 2,000 hours on each one, or 5,000 hours. I do not know based on it. Once finished, then that's all then what is the remaining capacity where we can tap into or help? Would be good to have it at a high level, so that we are not going crazy of saying that, okay, we want to do too many things and put the staff in cornering. Absolutely, we don't want to. So I just want to be cognizant of that, their effort. They do much more than even though it says 2,000 hours, I'm guaranteeing, based on what I witnessed I think they put at least 2,500 hours of effort in the 2,000 hours, right? So I just want to know what the balance would be. Will be good when you finalize all of them. It'll be good to have some visibility. That'll help us.
and we're going to pay attention to the items that council directs,
Okay.
and that would be the first priority. And as the smaller items come up, to be honest, that's going to be my job. And I'm going to be protective of staff, and if it's a worthwhile project that is going in the same direction that staff's going in, fantastic. And if we're making a left turn that's going to take 200 hours of work, I'm going to push back against that. Or the next director will have the opportunity to do that, because staff does have all of those existing programs that have to continue, and we have to pay attention to their workload. So it'll be a combination. Little things that are heading in the same direction, no problem at all. And I think the concept that the chair came up with earlier of having commissioners assigned to other commissions to talk about those projects, if you're going to attend those meetings and things, fantastic. There's a lot of commissions I've worked with over the years that roll up the sleeves and get involved and do the timing or the measuring for the Junior Olympics events or judge for the art contests or all of those things. If that's the kind of commission this wants to be, fantastic, and we can help out. If it's more of an advisory group, fantastic, and we'll stick to those policies. That's what we're going to learn together.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Anything we can help with besides all the feedback we've given you so far?
I think you're doing great so far.
Fantastic. All right. If there are no other comments from commissioners, we'll go ahead and move on to the item number 6, which is just a brief Parks and Recreation Master Plan update. Very brief.
No. I'm sorry. The question was a vote needed on this, and all you've done is give me your priorities, and we will pass that on to it. The Park and Rec Master Plan, yes, finally got that one right. That is going to the City Council for approval at their next meeting, February 18th. We do have the approval of the Environmental Review Committee, or recommendation. We have the recommendation from the Planning Commission, and the Park and Rec Commission voted to recommend it. The chairperson is going to be joining us at the City Council meeting and going to be echoing the recommendation from the commission after staff makes the presentation. I sincerely apologize because I don't remember Cindy's last name, but Cindy, the consultant that... Mendoza? That's what I said, Cindy Mendoza. It just came to me, amazing. Thank you. Cindy Mendoza is going to be making the presentation. Gail Seeds from our staff will be assisting with that. And at that point, then we will also allow Commissioner Tom Bay to echo the recommendation from the Park and Rec Commission. And we will be then moving forward and requesting approval of the document from City Council. And again, as we've stated earlier, that's then what triggers the next step, which is to start working on the specific plan, which, as I said, we've already taken one step into the water with Public Works Department. So that's the update.
Excellent. Any questions, comments, concerns? Great. So I'm going to be there on the 18th. If you want to, hang out, that'd be great. Just as a reminder, even if there's three of us in the audience, then we can't talk about it with each other. So just remember that.
We'll sit in each corner.
But that, we'll make sure that there's some physical distance. But again, super important for those 3 people who are watching at home. Would love to have you come out in support of the Parks and Rec Master Plan. As we mentioned before, this is not us implementing every single thing that is listed. It is just a goodie bag of things that we can pull from. It is our bench of players that we can pick for our actual starting line.
And if I just want to add, if any of the commissioners do go to the council meeting, you are allowed to speak under public comment when they bring it up. You can mention that you're on the commission, but please make sure that you're then speaking as a private individual, because the commission has not authorized anybody to speak. The chair will be speaking and giving the recommendation from, but you can speak as a member of the public that way. Thank you.
Excellent. So why don't we go ahead and jump on down to new business item number 8. If you don't already have it, please take out your cell phones and or calendars and or whatever you use to make your scheduling decisions. The mayor's meeting is the meeting at the first Wednesday of every month, where one representative from each commission will come forward. Some commissions do it so that the chair is the person who goes every month, but we have historically done it so that there's a different commission member going each time, both to diversify the workload and also because it's pretty exciting to have an opportunity to share with other commissions and also with the mayor, whomever is mayor at that time, what our commission is working on. Typically that involves going to this meeting saying, okay, these are the things that we've executed on, this is what our department's working on, and this is what is in the plan for the future, and these are different ways that other commissions can engage. It's also a good way for us to kind of put something in the ear of the mayor so that they're aware of the things that are happening with our commission before being surprised by something that might be on an agenda item. So it's a really good way for our commission to connect with our city council. So if we can, do you guys have a particular format you'd like to run this in, or can we just work on down the list? All right, we'll work on down the list. So the first meeting that we have scheduled, that we have coming up is March 4th. I am happy to attend that meeting if that is fine with everyone. Typically, it averages out to about 2 per commissioner.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great.
What time is this meeting?
30?
5:30? 5 or 5:30
I think it's
to 7?
5:30.
5:30 to 7?
Yeah.
Ish. Sometimes it's only an hour. Depends on the mayor.
Yeah. It's Steve Shore, so
It'll be 6:30. So it's about an hour
Quick.
from 5:30 to 6:30. So
and
I'll
you
go.
get to hear about what's going on the other commissions. It's-
All right, so next meeting is April Fool's Day, April 1st. Do we have a taker for that meeting?
I can do that one.
Excellent.
Oh, should we send this around, because Mina's not here?
Oh, she isn't here.
So-
That's okay. I
What
think
we've
at least
done
we can
bef-
get for the next 3.
Yeah,
so
we'll
we should
schedule
be
for the
able to
next,
charge.
like,
Or
up
each-
until May.
Yeah.
Pick one and,
Yeah, and then we can swap in case it,
yeah.
Do we have a May 6th?
I can go.
Okay. And then June 3rd.
I can attempt the June 3rd. I probably will get a little bit up to speed to figure out what we're doing here.
All right, sounds good. So June 3rd, and then the rest of them I think we should send around so that we can, it'll be equitably distributed. What we've done in the past is instead of everybody saying, I want this one, we say the ones we absolutely cannot attend. That might be a little bit more helpful, and then just an assignment from there. Cool. Next up, we have the monthly update and reports from directors and the director and commissioners. Can we flip it just for fun and do the commission updates and then the director updates?
The power of the chair.
I know, I'm just drunk with it. All right.
Wow, okay.
So
You're taking
I've
full advantage
taking
tonight.
full advantage of it tonight. For my update, I went to the city council meeting last month sometime and talked about the nonprofit program funding, and they passed it, which is really exciting.
Very nice.
So we are going to be able to adopt the new format and the new structures that we had actually requested be added to the application, and we made aware of some of the things that were issues before, and also provided some clarity on why things like the Historical Society is now a budget item for them and not for us. There was actually a fair bit of confusion about that specific piece, but I clarified that with them, and I think that they were sufficient with the answer, so hopefully that's going to stay on that side of the net. But that's my update. Go ahead. Any other? Okay.
It was a quiet month, other
Quiet
than
month.
our local cities around are doing a lot of work on dog
Dog
off-leash
off-leash.
opportunities. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
And a special welcome again.
Thank you very
Um,
much.
Welcome to the commission. Did you have any updates? You were not here.
I'll make one up.
Excellent. All right, Director, on to you.
Thank you. The first one will be the Rancho Rinconada update. So, as a little bit of background information, the city was approached by LAFCO last year and asked about the possibility of finding out information about possibly absorbing the Rancho Rinconada district, which includes a swimming pool, a building facility that is used for a lot of rentals, and a few other small pieces to the side of that. The city did send some information in as requested by the LAFCO consultant. I should back up and say LAFCO is the Local Agency Formation Commission, and they work, there's one in every county of California, so obviously we're working with the Santa Clara LAFCO. They had a consultant that presented them with the report. We were issued with a draft copy of the report and allowed to make a couple of clarifications to some of our statements. The report was presented to the LAFCO board last night at their meeting and is scheduled, we will be bringing it to the city council on the February 18th meeting. Our recommendation to the city council will be to do a quick review of the information, but then to turn it over to the Park and Rec Commission. And so our hope would be that we bring it to you at your next meeting, your March meeting, and we would be asking at that point for a recommendation from Parks and Recreation back to the city council. This might be another one where we ask for a subcommittee so we can work quickly within the next 1 to 2 months and get that information back. We do not have much information yet from the Rancho Rinconada Board of Directors. That is, their meeting is actually tonight, and they're going to be discussing this item as well. So I don't have much direction that I can give you other than to say that what we heard from LAFCO is that they will be they have an open process now for public comment, and they've asked us for more information. We will be taking it again to the council February 18th, but before we do that, we will be hearing information from whatever the board of directors at Rancho Rinconada had to say at tonight's meeting. So we'll be incorporating that, but we're assuming that it will be on your agenda for your March meeting. Any questions to that? Okay, in that case, the updates of activities, the Cultures of the World on February 13th will be featuring Brazil. The Winter Ball Dance will be on February the 28th. April 11th will be the date for the Big Bunny 5K Fun Run.
Yeah.
And just a reminder to you and anybody that's watching or intends to watch later on, but we are starting the process of accepting applications for summer jobs. So if you know of any, especially the teens that are out there, I usually tell people to make sure your applications are in before spring break. The sooner the better. We know there's a lot of college kids that will be, excuse me, coming home during spring break, and that's very often a time that we can make sure that we do interviews and appointments. But if anybody's watching, or if you know of anybody that's interested in summer jobs, please have them come in and fill out an application. And those are our updates.
Excellent. And then we also have our February 12th Blackberry Farm entrance
Right.
meeting as well. Go ahead.
Good. I have one question.
I'm just wondering if there's any update on the process for looking for our new director.
So great question, thank you. The director search was conducted by city staff and the city manager late in December, and we were unable to come up with a candidate. We're going to start the recruitment again probably next week. We've just finished proofing some of the papers, and we're going to do a more concentrated effort on going back out and doing a stronger recruitment. So that process will begin again next week.
Thank you. That's a big change, and I know that you were looking at a certain time frame, so now that's a different time frame, and so thank you.
My pleasure. But it's important that the city manager find the right candidate. So we'll keep looking.
A quick question on the summer programs. Is there all the details available in our city site in case if some teens, if I approach them, and what's the summer program? What are the things they can do? What are the options? Is it available in our site?
I'm assuming everything is available on the city's website, and they can contact Human Resources.
The spring brochure just came out, so you have all the selection of camps. But the summer events will not come out until later in May when the summer brochure comes out.
I see. Okay.
So I'm just going to repeat that because you don't have a microphone back there, but Kristine Hanul, the Assistant Park and Rec Director, is helping us out tonight. Off stage or behind the wings or whatever we want to call it. So the spring brochure just came out, and there's a lot of information about the programs in that. And the summer brochure will be out roughly sometime in
Okay.
April.
Oh, bless you.
Sometime in April, and there'll be more information. But in
Okay.
terms of applications, they can contact Park and Rec staff
and
to
Rec.
find out more of the details, or they can just contact the city's Human Resources Department.
Awesome. Thank you.
Before you
No,
pick up that,
you're
Gabby, I did have one question, because I did hear there was some turnover in the department. Kim Kalam?
Kim left at the end of the year, and she accepted a position with Santa Clara County with their Parks and Recreation Department. And we have just started a recruitment for a supervisor opening. We also do have an opening for a recreation coordinator and one more case manager. So we do have, there's a vacant case manager position, but we do have an amazing part-time case manager that's filling in for right now. So we're not short on that area, but we just need to get the permanent person in place for that.
So is there an interim organization chart or something? Who's taking over? I'm assuming Kim's responsibilities got spread out among some people. So
It did. So between Kristine and the two supervisors, Jenny that was here tonight and Rochelle, they have a lot of the workloads being done by the coordinators. And so Jenny and Rochelle are each working with a few extra coordinators in the meantime to get us up and running.
So is that something you can share with us in terms of
The specific who's got who?
who's got what responsibilities?
I'll just ask Kristine to come up here because she knows it a lot better than I do. So.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kristine Hanul, Assistant Director. And so what we did with that particular division, which is our Sports, Fitness, and Recreation division, is we split it between two other recreation supervisors. So the youth and teen programs will be overseen by Rochelle Sander, and the Sports Center will be overseen by Jenny Coverman. And the library commission assignment, I'm currently filling in as the staff liaison for that portion. So I think that pretty much covers it.
And Kristine did work with the Library Commission previously, so she's very familiar with them.
So I thought that Kim had recently taken responsibility for the dog pilot. Was that so? Where is that now?
That is correct. So the direct contact for that remains with Karen Levy, who is our recreation coordinator,
Okay.
and she is currently reporting to Jenny Coverman.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank
Sounds like we have reached the end of our meeting. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:52.